Hello, my name is Richmond Davis. I am the Republican nominee running against Elijah Cummings in Maryland's 7th Congressional District. Today I'd like to talk about the nature of America's enemies. America is a very rare and exceptional country. Mostly positive, but some ways negatively. We are a very parochial country in the sense that we tend to think, silly as it sounds on one level, that everyone's like us, that we are populated by good people generally who try to do the right thing generally. Present exception might be what's going on in Washington involving the Kavanaugh hearings, but we do make a mistake in putting our values and our attitudes on people from outside this country. Think about Barack Obama's, what I think has been fairly called, apology tour to the Middle East in 2009, shortly after he took office. He proceeded to basically assume on America's behalf blame for the way in which many parts of the world have been treated by America. He understandably received a great deal of criticism, particularly from conservatives such as myself, for that conduct. But he also betrayed an attitude that's rather common. America is so strong and powerful. When people do things that we don't like, it must be our fault. That's ridiculous. People hate America in most instances because they hate what we stand for. They do not support our democracy, and they think our democracy, our devotion to individual rights and human freedom, endangers their control over their populations. So the first task of a serious candidate is to recognize who our friends are and who our enemies are. On the current world scene, it's hard to ignore Russia. Russia, since the breakup of the Soviet Union, from an economic perspective, is really rather insignificant. It is nowhere near has nowhere near the economic force or power of, for instance, China, or certainly the United States and Japan. Yet it enjoys throwing its weight around. And to the extent that America doesn't step in and assert its authority, Putin, obviously the dictator of Russia, will continue to challenge American interests. China's a more subtle power, and they're more sophisticated. Perhaps that's attributable to the length of the Chinese civilization. And in that respect, they're more dangerous. Their population is much larger. Their economic prowess dwarfs that of Russia, for instance. They are obviously very expansionist when one takes a look at what they're trying to do in the South Sea. They're trying to make the China Sea rather, an actual province, in effect, an aquatic province, if you will, of China, which we must resist because the Philippines, the Malaysia, and even to a certain extent our old enemy Vietnam are affected by the expansion of Chinese power. And again, obviously, how about Iran? Iran is, comparing the other two, an insignificant economic force. It has oil, and that's about all that it has. But it has a very belligerent administration, leadership, that is intent upon hurting our allies in the region. President Trump is to be commended for ditching the so-called nuclear deal with Iran. That is a problem that will continue to fester, and we must not lower our guard against them. North Korea, there's another prominent example. There is a tiny, tiny power from any standard you want to look at, other than the fact that they obviously have some nuclear weapons and some missiles. How do we best handle that? One would hope that there'd be some sort of internal coup that would remove Kim from power. Absent that, perhaps containment is our only practical resolution. It'd be great to say we could wipe them off the face of the earth, which we absolutely could do. But what happens to South Korea, our strong ally with obviously millions of people there? That's a very difficult situation to deal with. Again, we must keep our guard up, and to the extent we can encourage the removal of the Kim regime from the communist regime, that I think is America's best interest. I hope you found this presentation of interest, and if so, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel.